Hello, everyone. I am here to give you a quick overview of the new Google Meet features that are rolling out to you in the next week or two. So keep in mind that if you do not see these features in your account currently, these are features that will be coming your way in the near future. And one way that you could kind of force the hand of having these features a little bit easier is by restarting your Chrome OS and or clearing your cookies and cache. This may or may not work. It might be a simple tip or trick to help you getting going a little bit quicker with your Google Meet features. So let's take a look at what these new features look like. Here on my initial landing pad, here on my teacher side. So I have my teacher side logged in here, and on the left-hand side, I have the student side. So you can kind of get both perspectives on what these new features look like. So on my teacher side, in the lower right-hand corner, I have this button that is turn on background blur. This is one of the features that Google Meet has rolled out to reduce the amount of distractions that are there for you and for your students. So if I turn on the background blur, what that does is it blurs out my background. So now we don't have any distractions of trying to decipher what is behind me or what artwork I have on the wall. The blurred background takes all of that away. So this is a great feature to ask your students to use, but the caveat to that is that blurred background is not currently available to students using a Chromebook. So if students are using an alternate device, blurred background is going to be the way to go. But if students are using their school issued Chromebook, blurred background is currently not available, and that is something that is up to Google Meet. They are working through that. Another feature that we're going to access is in the upper right-hand corner, we have our three vertical dots. That's where we can turn on the background blur. But here I want you to go to settings. When you go to settings, this is the second option to reduce distractions. That is noise cancellation. So here I have that feature toggled on. When I use noise cancellation, what that does is it filters out any sounds that are not speech. And so any background noise, such as music or siblings in the background or a television, all that noise is going to be filtered out so that when you are holding your video conference meeting for your students, if students have any background noise, that can be completely gone. So once we toggle that feature on, that feature remains on. So my recommendation would be to have your students turn on that feature through settings right when they enter into Google Meet with you. So let's go ahead and join Google Meet. We can take a look at what new features we have within. So automatically with coming into Google Meet, I'm going to go ahead and expand this a bit so you can see. I have a blue shield with a lock. When I click on this, this gives me the ability to have quick access, share screen, and chat messages. When I look at quick access, this is currently turned on, which means that if anyone has the URL to my Google Meet or has the nickname, they're able to join in automatically. But now this new feature of quick access, if turned off, is going to make the student actually request to join my meeting, and I will then have the ability to admit or to deny. So here I am on the student side, and I am going to attempt to join into the meeting. And when I do, it is going to, on the student side, ask me if I'd like to ask to join. And once I click on that button, here we go, on the teacher side, it is going to prompt me to ask if I'd like the student to join. I have the option to deny or admit. The neat thing about this is it allows us the opportunity to double check the name of the student with the name of the students on our roster to make sure that that student, yes, in fact, does belong in this meeting. This is quite familiar or reminiscent of what we have within Zoom. And in Zoom, we have the waiting room where we have students entering in and the teacher has the ability to admit or deny. So this is just a really great security feature that we have available to us within Google Meet now. Okay, now taking a look at some of these other features within our security or our safety. Share screen. So currently we have share screen turned on. And I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera off. So currently we have share screen turned on, which means that students can share their screen to present to the entire group. And this is a benefit if you want to have students share their work or present something to the whole class. But we run into a bit of an issue when we have share screen turned on and you are in the midst of your lesson And on the student side, that student decides that they want to share some of the Google Doodles for fall. So I'm going to open up this window here so that we have this available. Go back to my Meet. So let's say you're the teacher in the midst of your lesson. Student goes in, says, okay, I want to present now. They decide, okay, I'm going to present my Google Doodles I found. And now what happens is that that student's screen pushes into that presentation mode. And you have not allowed that. You have not said, okay, student, now you can go ahead and share. You haven't facilitated that because you have this feature toggled on. Now watch what happens when I toggle this off. If I turn that feature off, automatically each student gets knocked off. They're no longer able to share their screen. And so that's where my recommendation comes in. I would say turn off this feature of share screen until you want students to share, and then you could go ahead and turn that on. The other feature we have is send chat messages, and this is kind of an all on or all off. So if I go to the chat feature here, and I have this turned on, all students can send a message to each other and you, so it's a whole group forum, and the teacher can send. If I turn this off, that means that I, as the teacher, am the only one who is able to send messages to the whole group. Now on the student side, if I take a look at this chat feature, we have a green dot which indicates that there's a new chat message here. So again, it's an on or off feature. We don't have the option like in Zoom where you can send private chats from the student to the teacher. And so that's kind of a bit of a limitation, but it is something that I think Google is working on and we should see improvements with. Since I'm in this view, I want to take you to the participants list. On the student side, we can see that we have what it looks like from that side. And then if I look on the teacher side, we can see that it looks quite similar. But now when I go to my student and I click on my student's name, I have the ability to pin that student to my main screen. So let's say that student is giving a presentation or they're talking through their response. I want to pin their screen to my main page, or I can have the option to remove the student. So some of our features that we can continue to use for monitoring or managing our meetings. Down here along the bottom of our toolbar, we do have turn on captions. If we turn this on, just another great reminder, not that it is a new feature, but it's a great reminder to use this for students who might have any hearing impairments or for any of our ELL students. It provides text at the bottom of your screen and it allows for a support for our students within our class. In the lower right-hand corner, we have 3 vertical dots, which are kind of like our settings. And here's where we have the change layout. Now we have advanced grid view, where if you are in tiled view, you can increase the amount of grids up to 49. So if you have a large class, you can have all of your student tiles on one screen. Keep in mind that if you have any sort of lagging or disruption to the efficiency of your video conference, that you will want to scale this back because that is probably a little too taxing on your system. Back here in our options, we do have the option of whiteboard. And when I click on whiteboard, I have the option to start a new one or choose one that has already been created from Drive. I'm going to start a new one. And when I do, it'll ask me how I want to share this with the students in my Google Meet. I want my students to be able to edit this because I want this to be a collaborative whiteboard experience. That is when I hit send. As I do this, we're going to have our Jamboard, our whiteboard, open up in a new window. And I'm going to move this a little bit over so you can see on the student end, the URL or the shareable link gets shared to the student in the chat. And students can click on this in order to enter into the Jamboard with me. So once we're in here, we can change the background. You have a pen to make marks, an eraser, a pointer. You can add in a sticky note and change the color and move that sticky note around the page. You can insert an image, add geographic shapes, text box, and a laser, which is quite fun. Notice we have a blue share button, which means that this will live and exist within Google Drive. It will automatically update. And so this is kind of very much the same thing as a Google Doc. You go in, you make edits, you exit out, it saves within Drive, and you can access it within Drive from now until you are no longer within D303. So that is our Jamboard, our interactive whiteboard that we can incorporate within Google Meets now, a new feature that is available to us. We have our activities here, and now our new activities are breakout rooms, polls, and Q&A. Breakout rooms, these are really neat. You can increase the number of rooms. It has to be a minimum of 2 rooms, and then you can have a lot of new rooms. By adding, you can have a lot of them. And you can see that our students get distributed between these rooms, and you can drag and drop to change where they're at. You can click the shuffle button to shuffle them between the rooms, or you can click clear to bring them and call them back into the main room. So I'm going to go ahead and put the student in breakout room 1. I'm going to stay in the main room, and I'm going to click create. Notice on the student side, it asks, do we want to join the breakout room? And then I could, as the teacher, go ahead and click join to join that breakout room. So we do have limitations to breakout rooms when compared to Zoom. In Zoom, we have the ability to pre-create breakout rooms. In Google Meet, we do not. In Zoom, we have the ability to use a timer within the breakout rooms. We have the ability to send a message to all students or all breakout rooms. And we have the ability for students to ask the teacher to come into their breakout room. These are things that Google Meet is currently working on, and we should see these features coming to us by the end of the year. Back to our breakout rooms that we have enacted right now. As the teacher, I can edit breakout rooms as they're going on, or I can end the breakout rooms, which will call all of my students back into the main room. Notice on the student side, it will ask me to return back to the main room, and same on the teacher side. The next feature I'm going to talk through is that of polling. And so with polling, that is something where you are not able to preload, and here I'm just going to come back in as a student. You are not able to preload your questions. But you are able to put in a lot of different questions with it. And notice how it didn't prompt me on the teacher side to admit that student, since that student had already been in my Google Meet. So that security feature was recognized that they were already admitted. Okay, so polls. This is where I can go ahead and start a poll. You can add many polls. And so we can ask a question. Okay. And I can click save. And then when it's ready, so I could actually come into the Meet ahead of time before my class, save all of these questions, and then I can launch them at a different time. So here's where I can go ahead and launch, and you can launch each question individually. On the student side, you'll see we have the green dot where the geometric shapes are. We notice that we have a new addition to polls. As the student, I can go ahead and vote. And here on the teacher side, I can say, show everyone the results. And then I can click end poll. Once you are done with this and you've collected all student responses, you are going to get a record of what responses were submitted via a Google Sheet, and I will show you that near the end of this talk. The final feature we have is Q&A, and Q&A is where students are able to submit questions, and so is the teacher. So here is the student. I see that Q&A has been submitted. So I can submit this question. On the teacher side, I see that I can hide this question. I can answer this question, mark it as answered, I should say, or you can delete. Students can upvote. And the originator of the message can also delete this question. Teachers can also ask questions. And you can also sort what questions are shown and how they appear within the Q&A panel. You will also get a printout or a record of this in a Google Sheet that will show what questions were asked and how they were moderated throughout your meeting. A final feature is the attendance report, and that is going to run if you have 5 students or more within your Google Meet. And that is going to give you a record of who attended, how long they attended for, and it is also going to tell you at what time they entered, exited, and maybe came back in. So let me show you what these look like. So here we have a Google Sheet that is exported at the end of your Google Meet. And this is the polling results. So this gives the name of the student, the question, and their response. And keep in mind for polling, you are able to use emojis or icons as answers. And you're not able to do that in Zoom. Here is where we have questions that were submitted. So here's the question submitted, here's the person who submitted it, at what time, and here is how it was moderated or handled. And then here is where we have an example of an attendance report. This will be emailed to the teacher as a CSV, and then you have the ability to open this as a Google Sheet. So then it will then live and exist within your Google Drive to be accessed at a later time. All right, so that concludes our talk on the new features within Google Meet. Hopefully this is all you've been looking for and more, but keep in mind that we want to stay tuned as we are going to find additional new features coming our way from Google Meet from now until the end of the year.